Good evening, dear educators. Thank you all for joining us today for today's workshop for school leadership on equitable student success by super educator Mila Sengupta. Now, this workshop is brought to you by Teacher.in in association with HChat India. Now, before we get into the session, I would like to warmly welcome the teachers who joined us today for the first time to the Teacher Network, and I'll give you a glimpse of what the Teacher Network stands for. So Teacher.in is a professional network for K-12 educators. On Teacher, educators can connect with fellow educators, exchange ideas and resources, attend professional development sessions and upskilling sessions like these, and also apply to various high-paying teaching jobs and other opportunities on the platform itself. So on a daily basis, our hiring partners keep posting jobs on the platform. In addition to that, on every weekly basis, we conduct a lot of training sessions. So you can check out teacher.in for more information. And it's teacher with an extra, the R stands for revolution. Now there are certain set of ground rules that we'd like you to follow throughout this session so that we have an amazing learning experience. I request all the participants to please keep your mic on mute and your video off so that it saves your bandwidth and your learning experience doesn't get hampered in case you face any internet issue. And however, we'll be muting all the participants from our side during the session, and whenever Mila ma'am would give you a cue, you can unmute yourself and ask questions. However, in all the remaining cases, we request all the participants to please type in your queries and questions in the chat box. There will be a dedicated Q&A session in the end. And in case if you face any technical glitch, please stay calm and try joining the session again. Do not worry, we are recording this session from our side and we will be sharing this link of the recording with you all post the session once you fill the feedback form. Now moving ahead, introducing today's super educator of the day, Ms. Mila Sengupta. Mila Sengupta is an educator with 30 plus years of experience. She is currently working as a child development associate trainer in Texas, USA. She completed her bachelor's in the University of Calcutta and her master's in Southern University, Louisiana. In addition to this, she is a certified master trainer in Texas Trainer Registry. She has also published her research work and has presented in various professional conferences. Thank you, Mila ma'am, for joining us today and sharing your valuable wisdom with all the school leaders who joined us. I'm very excited for today's session. Over to you.
Hi, welcome to my session today, and thank you, Varun, for introducing me. Before I start, just want to let you know, can you all see the screen, please?
Yes,
you are all able to see it, and you are all able to hear me. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate this opportunity to be able to present in front of you, and also thanking you for joining today's session. Hopefully, we're going to learn some new information. And like Varun said, at the end of the session, we have a question and answer session where, I'm always open for ideas and always looking to learn from each other. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation today, which is redesigning education for equitable student success. So when we talk about education, education for all, this is our goal. I think in all countries, wherever, even in India or anywhere around the world, the goal of every education is to be able to reach and meet the needs of individual students. With keeping that in mind, we're going to start our presentation today and talk about the right of education. What are the rights of the universal right of students for education? So a high-performing or a productive educational institution anywhere in the world focuses on two things. One is the equality, which is all kids have equal opportunity and they are treated equal. And we're going to talk later about the difference between the word equality and the word equity. And also, there's a combination of equality and quality for all students. Our goal as educators, as educational institution, as teachers should be to provide quality in combination of equality to all children who have the right for education. So all students have the right to access quality education early in life. And we all agree to the fact that this education starts early in life, which is, we somehow call it like a play school or a preschool, however way we want to call it. But this is where the quality of learning, the foundation of education should start early in life. So they can gain the necessary knowledge and information that would prepare them not only for their academic qualification, gaining knowledge on the academic side of the education part, but it would be a kind of a holistic development for students, so they can have a development on professional level and as well as social success in life. Because education, you all should or would agree with me that child development, when it starts, when the kids start going to school, it touches basically all domains of learning: physical learning, social emotional learning, cognitive learning, language and vocabulary skill development learning. So all these learnings together makes learning a total. And when we try to reach the child and we try to give them knowledge and help them to grow and develop, this is called a holistic side of education, where we are developing the whole child. Each child has a unique ability and potential. We have to keep in mind this, that every single child comes with his or her own unique ability and their own individual potential. So what is the most important job that we do as teachers, educators, or as school administrators? We have the responsibility to identify the children's interests. As each child has their own ability and their potential, each child comes with individual sets of interests. And together with the interests, they also have individual needs. They have, each one has a different learning style. And so it is our job, keeping in mind all these issues, like the interests, the individual needs, the learning style of the individual child, we should make our learning age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. So teachers who are in the elementary level of teaching, or even teachers who are teaching a middle school or high school level, we should always keep in mind these two sets of words, which is age appropriate and developmentally appropriate. So the learning should be according to the age and the development, because a lot of times we see as teachers that the development may not be going or aligning with the chronological age, which is particularly absolutely okay with it, because each children learn at their different pace and they each learn in their own unique ways, unless and until there are some other factors that we need to consider, which may be some sort of medical issues involved, which could be some sort of emotional issues involved, which comes and falls under the category of special education. Can everybody hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am,
Hello?
you are audible.
Thank you. Education for all. So what do we mean, like quality and equality, when it goes or combines or goes hand in hand? The enactment of right of children to free and compulsory education, which abbreviation we call it RTE, Act of 2009, makes it the right of every child between 6 to 14 years of age to gain admission for education and to complete 8 years of elementary education. This is outlined in our education policy. Already it's established in the RTE Act of 2009. So without doubt, we know that each and every single child in our country has the right, or has the right to access education between the ages of 6 to 14 years. The dynamics of education and its role in national development and social transformation make it essential that educational programs keep continuously renewing, which is why we need to look back. We need to see what is working, what is not working, what is working, if we can make it better. If it's not working, what else can we add, or what else can we take away to make it working, to meet the individual needs of students, to monitor and see that the students are progressing, and which is eventually helping them in gaining knowledge and their further development. So what is the significance of this renewing? It is done in order to maintain its relevance to the changing social needs. So why should we be aware, or why should we be bringing in or continuously thinking about the renewing? Because it is very much needed to meet the changing social needs, or the changing personal needs of the learner, or the emerging national development priorities. So as we grow, each child have different needs, their individual needs, their social needs, their emotional needs, how they fit in as a productive human being in the society itself. So all these are significant, or these are implemented in our education system. So each and every child, we can help them maximize their quest for gaining knowledge, and eventually help them in their development and growth. The Right of Children to Free Education and Compulsory Act, RTE, to give it a little bit broader overview, I'm just going to go over briefly over these points. And I'm sure all of you as veteran educators are already aware of this, or you are already practicing this. So every child between 6 to 14 have the right to free and compulsory education. Make provisions for non-admitted child to be admitted to an age-appropriate class. So basically, we see that more in the rural areas where children there may not be still going to school. So efforts are being put to help them to be able to get admitted in a program which is age appropriate. Specific duties of appropriate governments, local authority, and parents in providing free and compulsory education, and sharing the financial and other responsibilities. So these are at the governmental level, where funding is one issue. And one of the issues now, are the provision provided for the children at the free midday meal, things like that. Those are provisions, or those are issues between the local state government, the central government, and the school authority or the school administration itself. So they share, and parents share a responsibility as well, because sending the children to the school is one of the responsibility that the parents share. And also, we are going to come to it later, how we can get the parents engaged, because as we all know, parents are the children's first and the best teachers. So we cannot deny the fact that research has already established that fact, and we need to have them being engaged in their children's education as well. One other issue we are going to be talking about is the pupil teacher ratio, or PTR. Abbreviation is PTR. So for individual schools, the parent teacher, no, sorry, not the parent teacher, the pupil teacher ratio is also important. The less the number of kids are in each class, the better is the formation of learning, because it is more, the teacher is able to pay more attention to children individually if there are less students in the classroom. The building infrastructure, which is also something that needs to be taken into consideration. How are the classrooms set up? How are the other kinds of facilities, the playground, the bathroom facility, and all these things, the water connections, all these are also part of the building infrastructure. School and teacher working days. So the number of days that the teachers are working, number of days the schools are open. Appointment of appropriate and trained teachers. That is another thing that we have to over and over assert, that not only do we need to employ educated teachers for the the appropriate classrooms, but we need to have an ongoing provision of professional development planning as well as in the system at each individual school level. Because if we do not gather information about what's going on around or what are the new information that's coming up, it is kind of hard to keep up with the new world. And now, especially in this digital world, there is so much going on, that there is so much information that are floating around for us. So we need to have a systematic way of gaining this professional knowledge through regular professional development plans. And this act also prohibits any kind of physical or mental punishment. We are forbidden from physically punishing any child or putting any child through any form of mental abuse or mental harassment, meaning not disrespecting a child, not demeaning a child, not comparing a child with another child and making that individual child feel very hard. No capitation fee. That's another thing that's outlined in this law rule. Private tuition by teachers are also prohibited. The screening procedure for admission of children, there should be a form of doing it, but not like the children should not be discriminated in any way for getting admission into a school, because this RTE, it mandates that every child should have access to free education between the ages of 6 to 14 years. And also prohibition of running of schools without recognition. If the school has not gained or did not seek official or governmental recognition from the schools, so these schools can be, basically the government has the power and the right to also seize the operation of these businesses or the schools itself. Continuation of the RTE Act ensures that children belonging to weaker and disadvantaged groups are not discriminated against or prevented from pursuing and completing elementary education on any groups. So that is another thing that is in the law that mandates that children should not be discriminated because they're coming from somehow a weaker or disadvantaged. And that could be different things. That could be the education level, that could be the financial level of the parents. So children, all these children should be treated fairly and equally, and there should be no form of discrimination or no forms put in place to kind of make it for these children not to be able to have access to education. Curriculum is geared towards all-round development. So which is what we talked about a little bit earlier about the holistic growth and development of children, where our curriculum should be geared towards all-round development for these children at all times. Building on children's knowledge. This is another thing I'm going to talk about little more, is a term called scaffolding. Like, when we are building a house or like a high-rise building, you see there are scaffolds built, or kind of like the ladders at the commercial level that are being built to kind of build up the building. In the same way, children always, each and individual child comes with their own existing knowledge. So it is our responsibility also to build on the children's already gained knowledge and build up on it. So what we do is we scaffold on their existing knowledge and help them gain more knowledge. And we need to promote and encourage their potentiality and talent. And in the process, the child should be free of fear, trauma, and anxiety. Their children should at no times be feeling stressed out or feeling threatened for anything, for any kind of thing, even if he or she is not following, or there's a little bit difficulty in keeping up with the work. In that case, we could provide them with extra one-on-one, more support and more help. But at the same token, children should not feel it anyway, being stressed or being in fear. And the environment should be child-centered and child-friendly, which is very important. It becomes important in the initial years like preschool, but I believe in my heart that it is also very much important even if when the kids are going up to the upper grades, because the environment needs to be child-friendly and child-centered, free of all any kind of stress. Children should be able to feel safe. Children should be able to feel comfortable. The environment, the teacher should be flexible enough to be able to have an open mind and accept things and meet the need of the children individually as needed. Protection and monitoring of child's right to free and compulsory education and redress all the grievances to national and state commissions for protection of civil rights. So this is an organization from the government of India. If there are any kinds of grievances or complaints made against any program or any school, this is the agency that those complaints or these grievances should be addressed to. And they have the right and the power, almost like the powers of a regular civil court in our country. So universal elementary education, this is another thing. And the overall goals, this program is called the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, SSA. So what are the key things? All children are in schools, bridging the gender and the social category gaps at all levels. It is another issue, very important issue, that there should be no discrimination, none so ever, based on the child's, not only their social status or economic status or educational level of the parents, but there should not be at any time any form of gender bias as well. That is also very, very, very important. Universal retention. We all know that we face a challenge and an issue about school dropout rates. So this program also addresses how we can retain the children. What are some of the things that we could do as teachers and educational institutions to be able to retain these children, to be able to hold their interest, to be able to motivate the children and encourage the children to stay at school and complete their basic education? And elementary education of satisfactory quality. So the quality of education, which is the mode of instruction and how we are imparting that knowledge to these children, are also very, very, very important. Now we are going to come to two terms, which is called equity versus equality. So in simple terms, what do we understand individually by these two words? Equity means making sure that every student has the support they need to be successful. Equity in education requires putting systems in place to ensure that every student has an equal chance for success. So anything that we offer at the school level or even afterwards at the college level, any form of education should be in place where each and every child should have the same access, or they have the equal chance for success if they are able to put in and recognize their potential, put in all the hard work and the efforts. Any child coming from any kind of background should have the possibility or the probability of being successful in their academic careers. Equality, on the other hand, is little different. It means treating every student the same, being treated with fairness, which means we should not discriminate a child depending on anything at all. It be it gender, be it socio-economic status, be it educational level, be it having lack of access to, because a lot of homes, even though it's becoming more popular, a lot of homes, they still may not have a telephone connection, or a lot of homes may not be able to afford to have an internet connection. So there are a lot of issues that the children face, and keeping in mind all these issues, we should always treat children with fairness and equality. So do we have any questions on these two aspects, equality and equity? We can always discuss this at the end of the session also. These what we just talked about is in general term, like equity and equality. Now we're going to see how equity is being, how it can be implemented in the field of education. So equity in education requires putting systems in place to ensure that every child has an equal opportunity and chances of success. So the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, in short from OECD, defines two dimensions of equity in education. So these are the two things outlined by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And the first thing they talk about is fairness. It says that we should, as teachers, as educational institutions, or even higher authority or the governmental level where these policies are being made and implemented or outlined, we should ensure that personal and social circumstances do not prevent students from achieving their academic potential. So we always keep in mind that each and every child has his or her own potential and capability to shine and excel and acquire that knowledge that's going to help them later to connect to this world and become successful citizens in the community. The next thing we talk about is inclusion. What does the word inclusion mean when we just think about the word, not in any context, in a generic term? Inclusion means set a basic minimum standard in the context of education. Inclusion means including everybody. That means inclusion. So we're not leaving anyone behind. We're not leaving or discriminating anyone based on any of these issues, including special needs, kids who have any kind of physical special needs or mental challenges. We include all of them, and that's in general term is called inclusion. But when we talk about inclusion in the context of the field of education, it is shared, but that all students, regardless of background, personal characteristics, or location, is included. So there won't be any distinction between urban school setting or rural school setting. There wouldn't be no kind of discrimination made against remote areas where schools are far and few. There may be one school in the entire locality. So all these things we need to keep in mind, and we need to always think and follow that regardless of the background, personal characteristics, or the location of the school, inclusion, we need to include each and every child in the program and help them learn, gain knowledge, and help them to reach their potential to be able to succeed in the course of their life's journey. What are the aspects of equity? What do we think about, or what do we have to take into consideration when we talk about the different aspects of equity? In school funding, is the school funding or monetary resources effectively able to serve the need of all students? So a lot of these schools, if they are government funded, they get money or grants from the government for different aspects of running the school. So is there adequate funding or monetary resources available to be able to effectively serve and need the need of all the students that are enrolled in the program? So that is also very, very essential. So one aspect of equity is that does the program have access to adequate funding to be able to run the program effectively and successfully? Are all students held to high performance standard, including students with special needs? That's one thing where I kind of practice and I come from. Most of the times, if students who have special needs do not have individual or excessive individual needs where they need one-on-one, assistance or help, majority of the time, students are included in the regular classroom program because research has proven that when those kids are included in regular classrooms, their level and rate of progress is much higher and much more productive other than if they are being secluded or put in another classroom where they do not have access to be able to mingle with their peers. Unless, again, if the child has severe needs or any form of severe issues that needs an one-on-one assistance or attention from a teacher. Do all students have equal access to high quality content that feed their educational needs? So here, curriculum is also very important. As teachers, what are we including? How are we imparting this knowledge? What is our mode of instruction? Is the content age appropriate and developmentally appropriate? And do all the students have access to this high quality content? Because it's very important. If students do not have access to it, if they are not able to, say for example, have afford to buy books, then there is already they're working against a big hindrance, because then they would have no choice but to be, they are going to be falling behind on their education part, because they do not have access or equal access to all the educational needs that they need to be able to gain the knowledge and to be able to need to move up in their educational journey and succeed in life later on. Let's discuss some of the common barriers to equity in education. What are some of the things that we see that may act as against this equity part of the issue at educational organizations? Students have different needs, and providing equity is to provide resources and support based on specific individual needs. So we need to be always careful that when we are providing something, when we are formulating or bringing in a new curriculum and new mode of education and access to the education, we need to always keep in mind that are we able to provide this to support also the individual needs, not only the group needs of the students, but also the individual needs of each and every child that's part of the program or enrolled in the program. What are some of the other issues that may act or go against this or act as a barrier to the equity in education? It could be poverty. Definitely, poverty is a huge issue, because the parents, like economic power has a significant bearing on their children's educational pursuit, as well as their socioeconomic conditions, or all other forms of development. And at the same token, educational level of the parents is also very, very important. So in parts of the rural India where parents may be working class parents, they may not have higher or adequate even high school education. So that's where the teacher's job or the responsibility becomes twofold, because the teachers have to meet the needs of these individual students, keeping in mind always and dealing with some of the issues that they have to deal with, because the kid as a member of the family or the family itself as a whole is going through some of these issues. There may be different family issues, which is, there are sometimes these are not avoidable, and families like this, they always, not always, but a lot of times they face issues like this. Mental health issues. This is another aspect. We are not professionals to be able to judge, or we are not supposed to be labeling anybody, but with our knowledge and our experience dealing with children every day, we do come across these issues where we think, again, in a layman's term, we're not professionals, but as by observing and as by dealing or talking to the children or talking to the parents itself, that there may be some mental health issues involved also. And homelessness, there could be issues that the child may be having issues. They may be being evicted or not being able to have a proper housing, or our parents are unable to provide them with a safe housing issue, like accommodation to stay in. And always the lack of gainful employment by parents, because a lot of times these parents may be they may be working somewhere where they have lost the job, and the father may be the only earning member in the family. So when there is lack of money coming in, the parent doesn't have a job, there could be some of these social issues that that tend to crop up. I'm not saying it always does, but there's a tendency or there's a chance of these kind of issues cropping up in the family as well, which would have a significant effect or bearing on the children's acquisition of education. And that's where, again, I said teachers who are motivated enough, working in those kind of settings, they do a lot of more extra work meeting the needs of the students other than only meeting their educational needs. They may have to deal with a lot of these kind of issues as well. How to promote equity at classroom level. So we as teachers, we as educators, how can we promote equity at the classroom level? How do we do? It is important to understand each student's individual needs and design an educational experience that will help all students to gain success. So our goal is to meet the child's individual need. Our goal is to make it equal and provide them with equal opportunity to be able to help the children gaining knowledge and help the children to achieve success. So what is the essential, what are some of the things that we need to provide or make have it is essential to provide in the classroom setting? Teachers have access to appropriate resources and materials. So this is part of the thing that goes hand in hand with the administration at school, where teachers should have access to appropriate resources and materials so they are able to impart the knowledge successfully. Professional development training, which is, like I said before, it is also a huge, tremendous part of teacher success and teacher support. Because if teachers are not getting the professional development or the trainings that they require to gain new knowledge and to gain all the new things that are happening in the society, in the world itself, they're unable to gain that and offer that knowledge to help the students in the long run. And these are essential also. And also it is very important to design your classroom environment to be able to give the students a message that all children are treated fairly, irrespective of what background they come from, if they have any other special needs or anything else. No child will be feeling left out or no child will be feeling discriminated for any issues at any time. Ensure that there is a consistent, fair, and objective way to determine students' academic needs, which is, in one word, I would say assessment. And assessment in my term, like we do back there, and I'm sure you all do also in some forms, is not only taking, when the students are taking exams. Assessments can be at different, we can implement different ways of doing assessment for these children. And this assessment should be consistent. These assessments should be fair and objective. So we are only documenting or deducing only from what we see, what we observe, what we see firsthand, because we are not here to put in our what we feel, what is our opinion, unless the opinion is based on facts. So it's very important for us to be consistent, fair, and objective. We cannot be subjective while we are determining or assessing a student's progress or even their academic needs. So what is this child in need of? So a child may be coming, like couple of days in a row without doing his homework. Simultaneously, we may see the child is not doing well in the tests as well. So instead of just looking on the surface, we need to find out. We don't know, but there could be something going on at home. Parents may be going through some rough issues at home. So that may be affecting the child as well. So these are some of the things we need to keep in mind. Monitor academic progress and implement a support system that serves all students. So we are not only going to also monitor their academic progress, but we are also going to have a support system in place because each child is unique, each child is different. So in order to meet their personal gains and personal needs, we need to have a individual support system that helps the students to gain success in their lives. The goal of an equitable education system is to empower all students to succeed. In my vocabulary, empowering students is empowering any individual, anyone is a very, very important, is a very powerful term because what is our goal as teachers and educators? Our goal is to give students, we are here as guides, we are here as facilitators. We are not here to dictate the gain of knowledge. We are helping and supporting the children and showing them the process, how to gain knowledge. What are the different ways the child can maneuver and gain this gainful knowledge to be able to succeed? So at the end, the goal of all education is to empower these students so they can successfully do it, then they can internalize it, and then they go forward to apply this gained knowledge to be able to succeed in their later life when they're going on, when they're going out in the world, they're seeking jobs, they're being fitting in the social norm, the professional world, and then being productive citizens or future citizens in our society. Um, so there, for promoting equity, for helping students to gain success, there are certain things we need to remember at all times. Each child is different and has unique learning needs. I have probably repeated it quite a few times because this is a very, very important thing we always need to remember and keep in mind. Create an environment where each child feels safe, important, and comfortable, and being included. This is very important. If a child would be productive, a child would be successful only when the child feels safe, the child feels important, the child knows, hey, my opinion does matter. So if I say something, my teacher would listen to me, and the child feels comfortable, and the child feels that he or she is being included. Because if all human beings, we even as adults, our ultimate one of our thing that we love to is to be included, being accepted in the group. It is very, very important. And that's why when we find a child not being able to play or not being able to find a friend, it is also our job as a teacher, as an educator. What are some of the things that we could do to make this child being accepted in the group? What can we do to help this child feel good about himself and pay him the respect and the support to be able to be part of the group? So it's very important for us to have the children feel safe, comfortable, and being important, where I am being valued as an individual. My opinion does matter here. Keep an open communication with the parents to understand student needs and offer support. That's another thing. It's very important to keep an open communication, and we as teachers always know that not all parents would love to keep an open communication. We can make all the efforts, and then there may be a little bit lack of response or lukewarm response from the parents. But as a teacher, as an educator, I would always say, never give up. Let's not give up. We are going to try to include those parents, keep an open communication. If we face certain things that a child is going through, it's always good to be contacting a parent and find out what's going on. Provide staff with trainings to meet diverse need of students and how to resolve the common barriers. So it is the important part of the education program or the administration itself to be able to provide staff with fruitful training, which is going to be able to meet the diverse needs of students. Like I said, when each child comes with unique needs and unique potentials, that forms a diverse group of students with diverse form of needs. So staff should be able to successfully help these children, but at the same token, the staff itself needs support. Staff itself needs educational support, and some form of administrative support and guidance from the school itself. Maybe your supervisor, your school principal, or anybody else, maybe, part of the, I really don't know the step ups of the hierarchy that you have in your school, but absolutely the administration. So it's very important for the teachers to be felt that they are being supported, that there's someone to be looking after their needs, and they're able to provide them with the support as well. So in order to maintain, or in order to be able to create equity or an equitable environment in the school, these are some of the things that are essential part of any school program or educational program. We're going to talk about the 4 E's of the program. So these 4 E's, if we remember, are very, very important for helping in student success and also creating an equity in any educational program. Expansion. The first E is expansion. Making educational facilities and learning opportunities available for and accessible to all children. Educational facilities for underserved or unserved community as well, and providing them education in the early years, laying the foundation stone for future educational journey, but also when they grow up to be able to offer technical or vocational education for higher up grade levels, which is going to help them later if they do not choose to continue their studies, going to college, or following a higher degree. They can always uh, get a gainful employment if they are being trained in some kind of vocational and technical training as well. So it's very important for expanding our educational horizon to be able to fit in not only the needs and not only have the children access to education for all, but we need to provide them with these extra tools, with these extra things, so that the students can broaden up their horizon and they are able to be successful later. Equity and inclusion. Ensure that education, that's the second E, equity. Ensure that educational opportunities are accessible and available for students, meeting the needs of diverse group and help them to become successful. So that is also very, very important. Excellence. The third E is excellence. Helping students achieve success by improving quality and relevance of education and enabling all children to achieve the expected or specified learning outcomes and success. So, improving the quality of education is not going to be effective if that education has no relevance to what they are learning and being able to apply it to their world outside or in the society itself, because that kind of education becomes ineffective if they're not able to apply that knowledge and gain that knowledge and apply it so that they can be successful um, in their later on in their life. So we have to gear our education so it is relevant, education that is holistic, education that helps the overall development of the children and enabling the children to achieve the learning outcome or successfully being able to achieve the expected learning outcome and then gain successfully or then become productive individuals in the society. Employability. That is also how education should be connected so that they can get gainful employment later in life. So this knowledge and the experience should be connected and relevant enough so that the children can apply that knowledge to be able to apply that life skill and gain future employability. We're going to talk a little bit about the NEP or the National Education Policy 2020, just implemented in the July of this year, which also talks extensively about how students should have gainful access to vocational training, and it could start at their level, age appropriate developmental level, from grade 6. If you go through the NEP 2020, it really puts a great deal of like assertion on this kind of education as well. So the National Education Policy 2020 is also talks about equitable and inclusive education for all. There is a big chapter, I believe is chapter 6. So it starts from chapter 6.0 through 6.8 or 10. And if you ever have or get a little time to go through this section or go through the whole NEP 2020, take your time to read through it. I think it's a wonderful, policy that the government is going to be starting to implement starting 2021. And the whole educational, the scenario is going to go through a little shift. But I think I'm feeling very excited going through it, that the shift is going to be very, very positive and productive. We may have to initially go through a lot of changes, and it may take us a little bit time to be able to kind of focus and implement it successfully. But I think long run, the outcome or the implementation, I believe strongly that it's going to be wonderful. So equitable and inclusive education policy as per the national NEP 2020 states that no child loses an opportunity to learn and excel because of circumstances of birth or background. So they are putting a lot of stress on early education as well. They're going to be expanding a whole lot on early childhood education. So no child should lose an opportunity to learn and excel and become successful in life because there are particular circumstances of birth or economic condition, parents' lack of education, lack of jobs, or any kind of other background that they come from should not act as a hindrance towards gaining this knowledge and getting the children educated and making them successful. Bridging gender and social category gaps in all levels of school education. It extensively talks about how children should not be discriminated because of their gender, because of now we have transgender population that they are also focusing on, that any special need child or any kind of gender issues should not be taken into consideration in a way that it should act as a negative way affecting a child. So all social category, which combines scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, tribal people, people from the backward classes, people from the minority classes. So none of them should be excluded from any of these programs. So this program also attempts to bridge that, build a bridge between the program, the implementation of the program, and these different special groups. Providing education on human values, diverse culture, include materials that are relatable and relevant to all communities. See, this is very important. And it is not only important for the children, it is also important for the teachers. And my last slide, I'm going to come and talk about the responsibility of the teacher to making learning for children equitable. Because we as adults also, we need to also gain knowledge, and we need to have enough, sound knowledge to be able to provide that education to children on human values and diverse culture. The world has become much, much smaller or much more accessible, not only due to digital expansion in the world that we see now, but also due to the exchange of ideas, due to the exchange of different, people are meeting different people. So there is a huge expansion and intermingling of culture and diverse population. So even in our school system, we're seeing different people from different nationalities coming in, and they may be here for job purposes or some other reason. So we need to be able to provide the children with a broader outlook that, hey, the world is not only made up of people that you immediately see around. There are other people, and we need to be able to learn about them. We need to be able to learn about their culture, their language, their food habits, and on top of everything, we need to be able to respect them and accept these, because we need to let our children know that knowing another language or knowing another culture, it doesn't make us anything lower. It actually enriches us. So being acceptable, being inclusive helps us and helps our children to be able to enrich ourselves in our mind. And again, these materials should be relatable and relevant. That kids should be able to relate what they are reading, to see it around and see, oh, how this is being implemented when I go out at my home or in my locality, in my neighborhood, that I can see things that are being done in a way what I learn at school. What can we do as teachers? So we all agree when we chose this profession, it is a very noble and very fulfilling profession. We may not become rich, we may not be able to build a huge house or build on a huge bank balance, but what we get in return is something which is priceless. When years down the road, one of your students come back and come to see you, and then you look at it and you think about it and you feel good and you feel so much more fulfilling in your heart, that, oh, at one point in his life or her life, I was part of his life's journey, and I was able to make a little bit of difference in this child's life. And some of these children stand out. You never forget them. In every teacher's life, I bet you all have one or two students that you will never ever ever forget. What can we do as teachers to make learning equitable? Know each child. So know each of the individual child, not only by his name, but by his or her interests. And what it does, getting to know a child builds a trusting relationship. In each child's life, as much as the parents are important, we as teachers play a huge significant role. They kind of look up to us. And I believe in my heart that we as teachers can make a child or we can break a child. So it's very, very important for us to be able to know each child, their interests, their strengths, their weaknesses, and build a trusting, loving, nurturing relationship. Encourage students to make them be aware of their strengths. So when students are doing something good, acknowledge it, appreciate it, and offer them specific praise. Tell them why. Why are you acknowledging and appreciating them? That, oh, because you did this. Specifically mention why are you paying them this compliment. Identify also individual weaknesses of a student. We as humans, we all come with our strengths and weaknesses. So also try to identify students' individual weaknesses and then offer specific support. It's very important to be able to meet their individual needs and offer them the support and the guidance. And do observation and documentation. Like I said, even if we are doing formal assessment and observations, a lot of times you will see, to meet individual needs, you may jot down a few points that you have observed while you observe the student, maybe in the playground, maybe while he or she is doing something. And that little input, that little observation may help you to seek out what this child particularly needs. So it's very important for us to be able to do objective observation, to be able to then document it, not like exhaustive ones, even small documentation works, and then be able to offer specific guidance and needs and support to the child to overcome or gain more knowledge where the child may be showing some sort of weaknesses. Be flexible to meet student needs and individualize instruction when necessary. So sometimes you may find a child who is having difficulty understanding a little bit. So maybe you may need to offer him or her extra few minutes to be able to talk to her or him, and then offer him some more guidance and support. So be flexible enough. So do not expect that all children learn at the same pace and all children are able to learn at the same level. So the rate of learning obviously differs in each individual child. Let students know that a failure is a process for success. That when a student fails, try to offer encouragement, try to offer, so, in a way where the child doesn't feel bad, the child doesn't feel hurt, or the child doesn't feel any inadequacy in his heart or her heart. And always tell them we learn through our mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Let's see how we can learn to make it the right way. Be respectful and be compassionate. See, being respectful, even a little toddler, a little 4-year-old, 5-year-old, they have their own respect. And I have seen, because my specialty is early childhood, and I have seen amazing things that when you pay them respect, how this little child gives it back to you. And it's very much true for all ages, for all kids. Be aware of your own biases. I'm going to end this presentation by talking about our own bias. It's very important. In order to be fair, in order to be equitable, we need to be able to identify, we as human beings, even if we say, oh, I don't have any bias. No, no, no. I'm very open minded. I'm very accepting. But deep down, if we can be truthful to ourselves, we will definitely find out one or two biases that we have. And these biases are formed from different ways. You know, how the society makes it, how sometimes the family beliefs make it. And there is nothing wrong with it. Do not feel bad. Do not feel guilty about it, but be aware of it. So be aware of your own biases to the extent that it does not have any negative bearing on a child's progress or a child's self-respect or self-esteem. Because like I said, we as teachers, we can make a child, we can break a child. It is our responsibility to offer guidance and support for the children, to be able to give them that confidence, give them that self-esteem. At the end of the day, I want to give each and every child that when they face a challenge, they want to say, oh, I can do it. Yes, I can do it. Because the child is not afraid to undertake that chance, undertake that challenge. Even if it's wrong, it's okay. So be aware of your own biases. So basically, with that, I want to end my presentation today. I hope you have liked it. And as Varun said, we're going to have a quick Q&A session. So to end this one, just a review about equality versus equity. Equality in education is achieved when students are all treated the same and have access to similar resources. Equity, on the other hand, is achieved when all students receive the resources they need, so the graduate prepared for success after high school in the educational context. It's not in any other context I'm talking about. So with that, I would like to end my presentation today. And I hope I've been able to give you some knowledge and a good background to be able to carry on and take this knowledge, to be able to happily apply it with your students in your classroom, and you grow the students. And as well as I think as when applying any knowledge in our classrooms, we as teachers, we grow not only professionally, we grow spiritually as well, and personally as well. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate this opportunity to be able to present it in front of you. Thank you. And now, Varun, if you would, we can go back to the Q&A session.
Absolutely, ma'am. So, dear teachers, you can unmute yourself and you can ask questions to Mila, ma'am. So, request all the teachers to start unmuting and take. We have 15 minutes for the Q&A session. Ma'am, there's a question from Ms. Sangeeta.
Okay.
It reads out, ma'am, when we talk about inclusive education, students coming through RTE are not treated that well. We try hard, but it does not work well. So what are your thoughts on that?
See, that is one thing I agree with you wholeheartedly. And my context is United States, and like I said, I work with also special need kids. And honestly speaking, truthfully, from the bottom of my heart, sometimes or a lot of times their needs are not met the way it should be met. There are a lot of variable issues that affect it, and the issues that affect that coming from your administration part, coming from maybe from parents side, There are issues that we do not have any control over. And we as teachers, we feel bad about it. We feel sad. We feel guilty about it when we are see that we are unable to meet. But as teacher, I would really advise and request you that exhaust your options to find out if there is anything on your part that you could do in order to be able to make this child feel welcome in the classroom. A lot of times I have seen even adults that are working with the children, children are so sensitive, and these special need kids, a lot of times if we think they don't understand it, they understand it very well. Even if we don't speak, just by looking at our facial expression, looking at our body language, looking at how we are expressing ourselves, these children are able to deduce if we are upset, if we are mad, if we are happy. So it's always, and that's what I said, because honestly it individual depends on individual programs, how it's being treated. If certain programs put it as a top priority that my inclusion should be able to, I'll put all my efforts, use all my resources, help my teachers, train my teachers to be able to meet the needs of these children. That's like something, yours and mine dream come true. If it doesn't happen, I would really request you, if like a lot of us, like I am not, I didn't go to school, or my special education was not in any kind of special education, in that sake. In USA, there are teachers who strictly go for special education. So when they go for studies, they take a discipline that they are equipped with the knowledge, that they can meet the needs of the special needs students. But I am not sure about India, how it's being done. But at the same token, with I think the national education policy, I kind of believe in my heart that it's going to put more stress and more focus on special needs and inclusion program. Okay, if you want something, or if you I would love to send you some more information. If you share with me the age group that you are working with, anything specific, I would love to share it with you. Thank you, Sangeeta. Hello.
Do you,
Anyone else, Varun?
yes, ma'am.
Sure.
So teachers, you can raise your hand so that we can call out your name and you can unmute yourself and ask the question in case if there's any.
I don't see anyone. Varun, do you see someone?
No, nothing. So in that case, teachers, so that all right. So with that, I think if we do not have any other further questions, then we can take it ahead. Otherwise, you can go ahead and ask Mila ma'am a couple of questions. You still have time. All right. So I don't see any questions. So, dear teachers, there's a feedback form link that has been distributed in the chat box and on the screen. So before we make a move and we go to the next stage, I request all the teachers to please fill the feedback form, because after you fill the feedback form, we'll be sending you today's presentation, today's link in case if you missed it, and details regarding the assignment, that all of the information would be shared via email, and this is the only way in which we can contact you. So please, I request all the teachers to please fill the feedback form. And yeah, so moving ahead, thank you so much, Mila ma'am, for a wonderful session. It was very insightful, where you had covered all the different aspects regarding equity and equality. And so dear teachers, if you have any thoughts with regards to today's session, so I request you to please follow Mila ma'am on LinkedIn and Facebook. On the profile's name is Mila Sengupta. And if you're in Twitter, you can tag us at Chat India and Teacher Tweets, and you can let us know your experience with today's session. The link for tomorrow's session would also be shared via email. So it's a 2-day workshop, and the second day would be tomorrow, and it starts at the same time, which is 4 o'clock tomorrow. So look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the day 2. Meanwhile, before you leave, I request all the teachers to please fill the feedback form so that we can share with you all the relevant details, and we can keep in touch. So all the link has been shared in the chat box and has been displayed. So with that, we come to an end for today's session. So thank you once again.